leaders. But the temptation to see a king selected by lots was far too enticing. So I'd agreed, with the understanding that Shalem, our spoiled younger cousin, was not to be included in the scheme. But of course Shay had followed us, like the little sneak he was. And like usual, I got talked into letting him stay because I'd always had a soft spot for the boy. I wish I could go fight too, Shay muttered. The corners of Avi's mouth twitched down, his expression full of similar dismay. As Levites set apart for sacred service, neither of them would see battle, and truly that was for the best. Though built like a warrior, Avi's true strengths lay with his silver tongue, not warfare. And Shalem, with his brilliant mind and tender heart, would more than likely be among the vaunted leadership of priests and prophets who lived and taught in Naioth, the community founded by Samuel the seer just outside the city of Ramah. I did not look forward to leaving behind the young men who'd embraced me as a cousin soon after I'd been adopted into their family, and as a friend even before that. But my path was clear. I'd spent 9 years preparing for one thing, taking up a sword against the Philistines. The only thing that had changed was that instead of simply joining the tribal army of Yehuda in my 20th year, I would now fight in the army of a united Israel under King Saul. I thought the king would come from Yehuda's lineage, said Shalem, his keen mind snagging on an ancient blessing bestowed on Yaakov's second eldest son. We'd been shocked when Samuel eliminated Yehuda from consideration. In fact, a large contingent of my fellow Yehudites had even stomped away in protest. But once the lot had fallen on the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who towered above everyone around him, by at least a handspan, doubts seemed to melt away. We had a king, and an impressive one indeed. That was all that mattered. I don't care which line inhabits the throne, I said to Shalem, as long as the Philistines are crushed once and for all. It did not matter that the man I called father was a Philistine, nor that his sister, my Aunt Eliora, was the kindest of women. The rest of their kin deserved no mercy. Not after I'd been dragged off to be sold in Ashdod, with the few who'd survived the slaughter in Zanoah. The screams of children being ripped from their mother's arms still reverberated through my dreams. "Let's get closer," said Gavriel, his body nearly vibrating with anticipation. I shook my head. We're already at risk of being seen. Although my cousin's jaw ticked, he remained in place, just as I knew he would. The three of them had looked to me as their leader since we were boys. But there were times I wondered if their confidence in me was misplaced. They would never know the things I kept locked in the darkest places of my soul. As the shouts acknowledging Saul's new headship died away, the tribal elders began to chatter amongst themselves while the priests conferred in a tight group. But the insistent bleat of a shofar soon brought them back to quick order. Samuel, the prophet and judge, revered as the very mouthpiece of Yahweh for most of his life, stood beside Saul and lifted high a hefty scroll. "These are the words of Adonai Elohim, as recorded by our forefather Moshe in the wilderness. Hear now and obey." With a practiced twist of his wrists, the seer unrolled the parchment and began to read the ancient statutes for Israel's king in a commanding voice that rang through the valley. Not only did they include a warning for a leader who would seek to enrich and lift himself above those he governed, but an admonition to transcribe a personal copy of the Torah. It ended with a promise that as long as the king listened and obeyed those commandments all the days of his life, his descendants would sit on the throne of Israel forever. Samuel gestured for the new king to kneel on the ground at his feet. "Do you hear these words, Saul ben Kish? And will you, chosen of the Most High, heed them until your final breath?" "I will," came the answer, after the briefest of hesitations.